기분 양조 기분 기수 종류
When we look at this piece of wood, we have a perception concerning this piece of wood. This piece of wood is itself, and we do not really know what its nature is. We just have an idea about this piece of wood, we only have an idea. Our perception of this piece of wood and this piece of wood itself are very different from each other. Just as we have an idea of an atom, or we have a perception, an idea, about an atom. Our perception, our idea about an atom, can be very, very far from the real nature of the atom, because our idea contains a lot of wrong perceptions. The true nature of the atom is very different from our perception of the atom. Only when we practice looking deeply does this division between our idea and the reality disappear. Then there is only insight, there is only wisdom, which shows us the thing as it really is. When there is no more perception, then there is wisdom. When we have realized wisdom, we have put aside all our ideas. And we are in touch with the real world, and all our afflictions such as attachment, craving, anger, and despair are uprooted. Therefore we are free persons with much happiness. An atom, for example, we see it as something very small. Now we talk about a grain of dust. We are looking at a grain of dust lying on the table, with no life in it. This piece of wood is the same. We say it is a piece of matter, something which has no space in it, but in fact it is full of space. The different atoms of the grain of dust and the atoms of the piece of wood each have a nucleus, and there is energy flowing around this nucleus which we cannot see. We think that these atoms are just lying there without life in them. But our idea about these atoms in this piece of wood is very wrong. Physics tells us that our ideas and perceptions about things are completely wrong. When looking at the sun setting, we have the idea that the sun which is setting is the real sun. But in fact our idea of the sun is very different from the reality we see as a ball of fire. We don't see the waves of fire in the sun, just as we cannot see the waves on the ocean from afar. Sometimes there are waves of fire in the sun which are hundreds of kilometers high. Our idea of the sun is very different from the reality of the sun. Just as our ideas about a grain of dust are very different from the grain of dust, and our perceptions of the sun are wrong perceptions, our idea of the sun is a wrong idea, and we live our whole lives with these wrong ideas. That is why we suffer. Our suffering is so great because of our wrong perceptions. So we have to look at the dharmas in the dharmas, and then we will see their true nature, and our wrong perceptions concerning them will dissolve. At that point our afflictions will be uprooted. Therefore the Buddha taught that all of our suffering comes from ignorance. Ignorance is the inability to see the reality of things as they are. There is something which we should know in the third version of the Satipatthana Sutra. Although it only talks about the 7 factors of awakening as objects of mind, in the third version there is still the basis which we see in the Anapanasati Sutra. Therefore the comparative study of different sutras is very important. When the practitioner practices the first factor of awakening, mindfulness, he relies on the initial application of thought in destroying the unwholesome mind and abandoning the unwholesome dharmas. When he practices the other 6 factors of awakening, investigation of dharmas, energy, joy, ease, concentration and letting go, he also relies on applied thought, and relies on no craving. So when we come to this part, we don't need to study much anymore. We just need to revise it. First of all, as far as the 5 aggregates and the 12 ayatanas are concerned, as form, feelings, perceptions, eyes, ears, nose, etc., we have to look at them and see their non-permanent nature. Once we see their impermanent nature, we begin to see the no-self nature, then we see the interdependent nature, and once we see the interdependent nature, we see the Buddha. Because the Buddha said, "The person who sees interdependent arising is the person who can see me." We look into a flower and we see the flower is made of the sky, the clouds, the earth, space, and time. And when we see that, we see the Buddha. We see ourselves, and we see we are made of our teacher, our father, our mother, our ancestors, our brothers, sisters, our vegetables, water, and all those things. When we see them in the light of interdependence, we see the Buddha. We see that we do not have a separate self. Therefore, we do not have permanence. When we see our interdependence, we see interbeing, the empty nature that is the emptiness of a reality which is separate, and when we can see the basis of our reality, we see clearly that these aspects of reality are not the same as our wrong perceptions. Therefore our wrong perceptions disappear. We are no longer attached to things, we are no longer caught in things. Suppose we are thirsty, and we see a pink glass of liquid. We are very thirsty and we want to drink it. People say, "Don't drink that, it's a very dangerous thing, it's not good water, you will get sick if you drink that water." But we aren't able to see why we should get sick from drinking this water, why this water will not relieve our thirst, but make us suffer. The other person has seen clearly that there has been poison put in this water, and they have seen people drink this water already, and that they have writhed around on the floor and died. And we hear that, but we have not seen those things. So, we have to look deeply in order to see that this water has poison in it, and if we drink it we will die. Once we see that clearly, then we can let go of our desire to drink that water. If not, we will say, "Oh, this is good water, why can't we drink it?" That is because we do not see the true nature of the water. The 5 objects of desire are the same, they make us suffer, they make us come into misfortune, they can lead us to death. So, it's not enough to forbid ourselves to touch these things. We have to see their true nature and then we won't want to touch them. So once we have seen impermanence, no self, interbeing, then quite naturally we see the non-desirable nature of things, it's not worth being attached to them. Then we can practice dwelling peacefully and happily in the present moment and not run after objects of desire. Nirvana is to see that all things are not born and do not die. They are not existing and they are not non-existing. When we look into reality with the wrong perceptions that we have, we see birth and we see death, we see that things are or are not, and these ideas make us afraid because we desire them. Then we suffer because of our fear and our desiring. And now we look into all objects of mind, and we see that they are not born and they do not die. They do not really exist and they do not really not exist. They go beyond ideas of birth and death, existing and not existing. If we do not look deeply, we will see, that is born, that dies, that really exists, that really doesn't exist. But when we look deeply, we see they dwell in nirvana, they are not really born, they do not really die, they just manifest and then lie latent. We have wrong ideas of birth and death, come and go, and we suffer because we have those ideas. Therefore, nirvana, when we understand it, is going beyond birth and death. If we have not truly understood the meaning of birth and death, we will not really understand nirvana. Actually, what it means is not that we go beyond birth and death, but that we go beyond ideas of birth and death. Everything lies in nirvana. The plum blossom lies in nirvana, the cloud lies in nirvana. Its real nature is not born, does not die, is not existing, is not existing. In English we can say everything has been nirvanized since the very beginning. Therefore we hear it said that nirvana, birth, and death, are like the flowers we see in front of our eyes when our eyesight is not good. When we are deeply in touch with reality, we see that even though this flower is very fragile, it is not born and it does not die. All dharmas, all objects of mind, from time immemorial, have as their nature, their true face, to dwell permanently in nirvana. They don't need to enter into nirvana. Nirvana isn't something that lies in space, that we can come to, have to wait for. Everything dwells in nirvana already. All things, from beginningless time, have always lain in nirvana. The true nature of everything is nirvana already. So when we are looking for nirvana, when we say that we will enter nirvana, that means we do not know how to use the word nirvana. We think that nirvana is something in space or time, that we will be able to step into, but in our true nature we are nirvana already. Nirvana is the absence of all ideas, the absence of the idea, exists or does not exist, born or dies. We also have the phrase all dharmas are without birth. All dharmas are without death. You are able to understand this. The Buddhas are always there before you, if you are able to see that all dharmas are without birth and without death. In the beginning we hear the Buddha say, "Whoever can see the interdependent nature of things can see me." That person can see the Tathagata. But what is meant by interdependent origination? Go deep into it and you will see it is also nirvana. It is the coming together of so many causes and conditions in order to manifest as something, and when causes and conditions are not sufficient, then that thing has to lie latent. So all there is the manifestation and the latency. There isn't such a thing as birth and death. It is just the matter of appearing or failing to appear, not the matter of birth and death. And once you can see that, you can see interdependence, and at the same time you see no birth and no death. That is why the term mere manifestation used in Buddhist psychology is so useful, because it shows us that ideas of birth and death are wrong ideas. Exists and does not exist are wrong ideas. Therefore nirvana, the reality and basis of things, means letting go of ideas, ideas about myself, ideas about my lifespan of 60, 70, or 80 years, the idea that before that I did not exist, and then I existed, and then again I won't exist. These are all ideas. In the Lotus Sutra it says that the lifespan of the Buddha is limitless. And when we look deeply we see that the lifespan of a leaf is also limitless, and our own lifespan is also limitless because we are objects of mind, and our basis is without birth, without death, without existence, and without non-existence. When we see that, all our fears dissolve. Therefore, letting go is a practice. To let go is to let go of ideas, to let go of wrong perceptions. Our spiritual ancestor, Master Tang Hoi, used the word Fong Kai. In talking about letting go, it means letting go. First of all, let go of the idea that I am this body. Then let go of the idea that your life is only 80 or 90 years. That is to let go of the idea of lifespan. In the Vajrakattika Sutra the Buddha tells us to let go of self, person, living being, and lifespan. All other ideas rely on these four basic ideas and we have to let go of all of them as well. Therefore the last section of the sutra, this method of looking deeply at dharmas in dharmas, is to be able to discover the basis of reality, the nature of reality, the non-desirable, the impermanent, the nirvana nature of reality. When we have discovered that we can let go of all our wrong perceptions of reality, and then we are free persons. We will no longer suffer. And that is the highest point of practice.